Hey, good morning. Just wanted to make a video of stuff that I'm thinking about today. Been training. Been training hard. Getting some weights felt good. I've been at 185 for a while now and started eating heavy again and started working out heavy. And it's been feeling good. Been putting on some strength and some muscle. And I get niggling injuries, like lifting really heavy, powerlifting, strongman style stuff. Um, your your weakest links start to get they get beat up, and so I'm just looking at health and healing and wound healing a lot right now. Wound healing is usually a proxy for soft tissue healing as well. So like a lot of studies, if you're going on Google Scholar or if you're looking up papers that actually have science backed on what's going on, a lot of the wound healing papers will be a good proxy for you. So, like this morning, I was doing some high intensity interval training in order to. I was doing that on a bike because my wrist I popped it yesterday, had a little. It's sore today. It's actually feeling a lot better even just after. I haven't done anything to the wrist, but I went and I did sprints on the Airdyne bike, and I can already feel it's less sore. So the idea behind that is that doing the sprints upregulate, especially I did it fasted, so that upregulates human growth hormone, and that is one that really helps with healing across a wide margin. So by doing sprints and that kind of thing, I only did like 10 minutes, right? Not, intervals of 15 seconds, 15 seconds hard, 45 seconds easy. Just did that for 10 minutes and then a cool down. But that small amount of work has been shown to upregulate that hormone by huge amounts. The study I was looking at was they were looking at 30 seconds of that type of work, just a 30-second all-out sprint, and that increased human growth hormone for by 500% or so, 530% above baseline for like 120 minutes. So if you are, so my thing is I'm looking at how do I heal faster and recover faster, and a lot of that is going to come from meditation, rest, just getting enough sleep. But in order to really help that along, also it's going to be working on these hormone factors that I can control, doing sprints a couple times a day. Um, I would suggest bike sprints because running sprints are actually a higher, unless you're doing like uphill sprints, but they're a high risk factor as well. Like the risk to reward, especially since you're trying to not get injured and recover from injury. Like sprinting is very technical, and uphill sprints help put you in the position that makes it harder to hurt yourself. But bike sprints are it's almost impossible to hurt yourself. That's why a lot of these studies look at that. You don't have to be as coordinated an athlete to do bike sprints as you do for running sprints. Anyway, that's something on my mind. Another thing that I'm thinking about right now is artificial intelligence, machine learning. I'm taking a couple courses on that and going through it. I'm looking at like what are the technologies of the future that excite me and that I want to be involved in. So I'm taking a course, multiple courses in machine learning, and looking at one in self-driving cars as well, which is all artificial intelligence and machine learning as well. And the last thing, the thing that actually I wanted to make this video about is I'm thinking about vampires, like real life human vampires. Peter Thiel uh, is looking at research from like 50 years ago called parabiosis, where um, they stitched together the circulatory systems of an old mouse and a young mouse. So they literally like sat them side by side and like made sure that their circulatory system shared, right? And so the old mouse, I don't know if this was originally the old mouse, but the old mouse, which had like gray hair, it was wasting away, had a lot more fat than muscle, etc. And the young mouse, which was brown in color, they looked at. I don't know what happened to the young mouse, but the old mouse, its hair went from gray back to brown, and it had more muscle, and like by all factors, it was a younger mouse. So that study, like the person who did that study back in the day, they were like thrown out of the scientific community because they were like, oh, that's ridiculous. Um, but since people have been looking at that, like, huh, I wonder what that was. And so what they've started to do is they've started to recreate those studies without stitching the circulatory systems together, just doing blood transfusions from young mice to old mice. And every time they see markers across the board of these mice getting younger, like biologically younger. So this is crazy to me. Like it's the reason they think it is because stem cells are held in the plasma and the blood plasma. So by giving and anybody over like and it happens in mice at different ages. I don't know what it is, but they're looking at this for humans, human vampires. This is what I'm talking about because we're actually talking about like the possibility of uh, not drinking, but taking a young person's blood in order to sustain an older person for a longer time, right? Like these myths have been in humanity for thousands of years, or for a thousand, for yeah, I'm exaggerating now, but for a very long time, ancient cultures have had this idea of vampirism, and they won't call they haven't always called them vampires, but it's the same concept of like and blood specifically is always what shows up in these myths and legends. So it's super crazy to me to like see that science is now pulling out places where with mice they can see this happening. What I was saying earlier was that um, in humans, about age 25, we stop producing stem cells, and over age 35, we start getting the decline more rapidly. So the idea is that if you've got young blood of people under 25, they've got more stem cells, and they can give those to the people who are over 35. And there's a company now that I think Peter Thiel is helping to fund as well, called Ambrosia, which is actually doing a study on this right now. Um, it's going to be a 2-year study. They started it a few months ago now. Um, but what we're looking at is people in like the Silicon Valley crowd, big money, right? $8,000, I think, to put yourself into this study. I don't know if that's per year. I don't know if that's a recurring cost, but like you have to get to this facility, you have to pay for your blood work, etc. But there's no regulation against using donated blood for like off prescription use or something. So legally speaking, you can just go, and if you've got a doctor that's doing a study, they can take young people's blood from under 25 and give it to older people over 35. And so we're going to have data, in about 18 months or so, um, on what that actually looks like. Does can people live forever? Like it's a really crazy thought, and so that thought is stuck in my head because I'm like, what does that look like for the future? What you know, what does it look like if the rich never die and never pass on? And what does it look like if the rich never go out of power? Right? Like that's one of these concepts for me that I love. I love really in-depth science fiction and books that like explore culture and reality if you have big changes like that. And so to me, looking at this is one of those questions that's like, what does that one thing look like if you propagate it out? What if this becomes a therapy that one, if only the rich can afford, and what does it look like if it becomes something that everybody can afford? Um, anyway, I'd love if you're. I don't know who is watching this, but if anybody is, I'm curious. What are your thoughts? What on anything that I've said? Anything with exercise, wound healing, machine learning, um, and that's another one, right? That's a technology that is coming so fast. Machine learning and artificial intelligence, and then put on top of that people living forever. Like what does the world look like then? So anyway, um, thoughts of the day. I hope you're well. Talk soon. Bye.